Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are and whatever time you see this video. Welcome to Scube TV. Today we have a special guest, State Senator Bill Dodd. He represents California State Senate District 3. So welcome to the show, Senator Bill Dodd.
Thanks, Srini. Nice to be here with you.
Same here. Thank you, sir. So we'd like to know a little more about you and about your career, and then how is your first term in the State Senate so far?
Well, I was born and raised right here in Napa, California, which is about an hour outside of the capital, Sacramento, and born on a small family farm, and went to local schools, and went away to college and came back and worked for the family business. About 25 years later, sold it successfully, got into politics as a county supervisor. Had never thought of ever even being political, and won, and then ran 3 times unopposed after that, which is a lot of fun. And then I ran for the state assembly in 2014 and won. And then again, I ran for an open seat in the state senate in 2016, and here we are. And it's been a whirlwind, last 6 years in the California state legislature. I really believe we've done a good job, and working, very, very hard, with all of these challenges and everything that not only we have here, but we have all around the world.
So very, very nice. Thanks for your information. And the Napa is a place, where people come to the Bay Area and from the Bay Area and all over the world to do the wine tasting. And they also call the Valley is the place, football of the it's part of the football of the California or even the USA, I would say. So do you want to talk something about that?
Well, look, it's been really interesting growing up in Napa. Of course, when I grew up, the wine industry was nothing. It really, started to take off a little bit when Robert Mondavi started his winery in 1968, and then of course we had the Paris wine tastings in 1976, I believe, and lo and behold, Napa Wines won and put us on the map. And today we probably have over 500 wineries here, and it's just it's the way of life.
Gotcha. So thank you very much for that information about the wineries in the Napa area. So right now the whole world is going through this COVID-19 pandemic, and in the beginning stages, California had a little bit better control or handle on the COVID-19, and they were able to blunt the curve a little early on. And but recently again the things are going in a different direction, and the numbers are going up, and few counties, governor has to announce an emergency and then close down the businesses to restricting the business from dining in and those kind of things. So can we talk a little bit more about the COVID-19 situation in California and also specifically in your district?
Yeah, let's start with California. Governor Newsom today called on, I think it was about 18 or 19 counties to kind of roll back bars, wine tasting, facilities, and gyms and places where people congregate normally indoors. And his message was, if you can do what you do outdoors and you can still social distance, wear a mask, that's fine. But we're going to start putting the clamp down, if you will, on indoor type of situations. So I think that was smart on his part. Fortunately, in my district, I have a small part of Sacramento, and that's covered in that order. Also, Solano County, part of it is included in that order, and then Contra Costa County. But Napa, Solano, and Sonoma, at least for the moment, are okay. But this is Memorial Day. This is the protests we had over here, Black Lives Matter, which they do. And it was just one of those things that just got out of control. And I believe that's more than likely the catalyst for where we are now. Plus, we opened up into phase 3. And of course, we knew when we went to phase 3 that it would get worse, a little bit, but we didn't anticipate this.
Gotcha. I understand. I mean, we will go to the Black Lives Matter in a few minutes. I mean, before we go there, I mean, how is the impact on the small businesses? I know you yourself has been a business owner, and I'm sure, I mean, I'm all over the world, all over the country, and also the California. I'm sure in your district too, most of the small businesses, even the big businesses, are also affected. But I mean, they have little different ways to handle them. Small businesses are directly affected. I mean, immediately got that effect. Just like a baby gets any fever, I mean, the seriousness will be severe or high in the babies. So the small businesses are affected very hardly right now. So how is it the small business situation in California? And is there any remedies, or is there anything? What is the outlook on those in the day?
Of course. Right. Of course, the aid from the federal government didn't get down to help enough small businesses. So I'm really worried about the small businesses in my communities that I serve. I have 6 counties and 22 cities representing nearly 1 million people in my Senate district. And that's a lot of small business. I would say probably it wouldn't be a stretch to say that perhaps that's as many as 5,000 small businesses. And I really worry. That's what I worry a lot about, during this time, because not only were they out of business for a long time, business isn't coming back really quickly either until people feel comfortable, getting out and about.
That's true. I know. It will be challenging, and we have to see how they will be able to recover and then get used to the we are calling it the new normal, and we have to see how it really is going to be. So, see, the COVID-19, during the COVID-19, we have another issue coming up. I mean, a social issue, the Black Lives Matter. During the same time, this has started. I mean, a few days or weeks. We are a few weeks into it. So, what is your opinion on the Black Lives Matter, and also how is the movement in your district?
Well, listen, I represent the city of Vallejo, and the city of Vallejo has had probably more than 15 police shootings in the last 10, 12 years. And my community there has had enough. And when George Floyd got brutally killed, I believe, 8.5 minutes on somebody's neck, what it did is it just sent a message. It sent a message to certain crowds into violence, but in other crowds into peaceful protests. And then for those of us that did neither, it sent us into a real reflection. What are we doing? How do we keep allowing these things to happen in our communities? So I was bound and determined to support legislation when I got back to Sacramento that would advance reforms and restrictions on police and police activities. Now, look, we all know there are bad cops, there are bad politicians, there may be even bad TV people out there, Shimi, I don't know. But, but not everybody's bad. And so this is one of the things that, unfortunately, this is what we have to go through in order to get the type of reforms that'll really protect people's lives, but moreover, they'll improve our communities so much.
I agree with you, Senator Dodd. I mean, every department or every community has some both good and bad, and especially the police department has both, and we have seen very good, some good people, I mean, helping the community and helping the kids and helping, we have seen those things. We have seen very good, heard many good stories on the national TV and even the newspapers about the police helping the community. No doubt about it. But at the same time, there should be some checks and balances for the bad apples in each department. So from that point of view, I mean, people have been talking about defunding the police and getting some reforms in the police department, and also talking about repealing the qualified immunity to the police departments. So what is your say on these policies or these agenda items, which are coming up recently?
I think everything needs to be on the table, absolutely everything, and we need to discuss it. Qualified immunity, I think we've gone too far there. You could have a felony conviction as a police officer and get qualified immunity. How fair is that? Somebody that does drugs and has a felony on their, on their record is going to jail or loses their job. It doesn't make a lot of sense. Now, there are other things that that police officers, have security clearances in some case, which we'll have to understand a little bit better and take that on a case-by-case basis. But these reforms are important. The other thing is I don't think we need to be talking about defunding police. The real story is, as Governor Newsom said, reimagining police, reimagining who would come out to a certain call. If you've got somebody on a mental health, breakdown out in the community, do you want to bring somebody that's got a gun and a badge and that's the tools that they bring to the table? Probably not. But if we could bring a mental health expert out there, and then, there are other things, or social workers could be coming out in other cases. I just think we need to just think through this a little bit differently.
Gotcha. So is there any proposal in California, either Assembly or the Senate, to reform, bring some reforms in this area?
There may be some bills that get, we call them gut amends because they're still alive, but we've already passed the deadline for new bills to be heard in the Senate and the Assembly. So it's going to have to be a special bill that gets, permission from the leadership to be able to be, brought up at such a late time. But if it does come up, I would expect it to come up the middle to the end of July.
Gotcha. Okay. Let's say something similar to this topic. In the US, many people, they like and they love their Second Amendment and the freedom and all those things. But at the same time, we have seen many, incidents, where we have lost lives and many people lost their loved ones to the gun violence. So how do we balance between our freedom and the safety of the people in the community?
Well, look, we've done, California's probably got the most strict gun laws of all 50 states in the United States. It still hasn't, our violent crimes have been reduced over the last 2-3 years. Whether it's a result of that by itself or not, I think is up for debate. But the reality is some of these guns that, AR-15s, AK, I don't even know all the names, of these, but guns that are used in war and protect soldiers from other soldiers should not be used on the streets in a polite society. And, from that standpoint, whenever we have these mass shootings, it seems like those automatic weapons are often the weapon of choice by the perpetrator, and I don't think there's any place in our society for that.
Gotcha. Okay, switching up. Thanks for your views on those topics. Switching the topic from the police and the safety to the economy for some time. And California is well known for the largest economy and also the 5th largest economy in the world. And it's booming, but at the same time we see it's not distributed equally along across the California state. The economy, the prosperity is limited to few districts or few areas within the California. Now, if you take example within your district, some portion of your district is very good, and some rest of the districts are not that doing very well. So, but at the same time, if you look at the California, many companies are leaving California because they are blaming the cost of living or labor laws or the taxation. And at the same time, they are leaving the state, and even the employees are also leaving the employees, the citizens are also leaving the state. So whereas some portions of the California is not doing well, so is there any policy which can hold them back within the California from the high expensive areas to the low expensive areas like the Central Valley of California? I mean, is there any measures of that kind by the policymakers in California? I'm sorry.
You mean in terms of maybe having different rules and regulations like in the Central Valley than we have in the Bay Area, for example? Probably not. We tend to do these one size fits all rules and regulations, and we reap what we sow. That's an area that I think needs to be looked at more in depth. A lot of, even though we do have uneven portions of the areas throughout the state of California that seem to still be low income areas. Really, the legislative agenda over the last 6 to 8 years from Democrats, which I'm one, is to try to boost up and have it be more of economy for all of California, not just the big businesses. And so that's been the agenda on a lot of different things with paid family leave, minimum wage, other rules and regulations when it comes to labor, air quality, water quality. We have some of the toughest regulations in the world, and you're right. We do have businesses that are leaving. But we also have a lot of big businesses that are staying and a part of the, want to be part of the California dream. And, I suspect it's, we're going to continue to try to have a California for all and, try to help out those people that, like one of the big initiatives is trying to figure out our homeless problem. We've gotten to the point where we got 60, 80,000 homeless people, in the state of California. That's unacceptable. But let me tell you, the potential answers for that, problem, solutions to that problem are very, very tough and very, very expensive.
So, I mean, you brought in the homeless point. I mean, recently, I think governor was talking about finding some solution or a temp solution for the homeless by renting or buying the hotels and then motels and putting them in that one. Do you want to talk about it, please?
Yeah, I believe the governor, through executive order mostly, has, I think, bought somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 to 30,000 rooms throughout the state of California. If you can imagine going into a community and having a Motel 6 or a Travelodge or a Holiday Inn or some hotel, local hotel, not a brand name, that has gone, all those could have gone out of business, may have a different name today, but they're there and the market is right to be able to go in and buy those. So those present a great opportunity and really appreciative of that.
I know it's a good win-win for everybody. Looks like, I mean, the hotels, I don't know whether the policy-wise, I'm not sure, but at least from the business point of view, I mean, the hotels are getting a exit strategy. I mean, due to the low business turnout right now. So probably, hopefully, it's working out good for both the homeless people, the government, and the hotel owners. Let's hope for that. And another thing is the same, is something similar to the California, which is again, I mean, a high-tech industry. I mean, a lot of innovation comes out of the California, and that will be used by all over the world, not only the state, but I mean the country and all the whole world. I mean, uses the technology innovated by the people in the Bay Area. But at the same time, I mean, if you look at the education system in California, education is one among the it's a top, one of the top from the bottom. It's not from the top. It is from one of the top from the bottom. So, I mean, why is it so? I mean, what measures, I mean, the policy makers are taking to improve the education system, especially K to 12?
Well, let me tell you, I think there'd be a lot of people who disagree with you that it's one from the bottom. But even if it's half from the top or the bottom, that's still not acceptable for a state that has the 5th largest economy in the world. And I think that's really your point. We should be doing way better. And in spite of extra funding that we've done, we have had a hard time getting there. And I think it really goes back to, that unevenness in our communities that you brought up, on a past issue. We have some communities that are more affluent areas, and they do fine. Their test scores are fine. But we've got a lot of English as a second language communities where the parents really can't help because they don't speak the language. And, we need to do a better job. Everybody should be prepared to go to school by the time they get to preschool. And I think that's a failing that we've had so far, in the state, being able to make sure that we have a great education for everybody. And so I think that's job one that we need here in the state of California.
Yeah, because many countries, or many leaders, they talk about education is one, tool for the people under the poverty, or with the low income people, is the one tool for them to come above the come to the prosperity side of the world. So probably that should be important. Should be given, as you said, should be given the number one priority in improving. Hopefully that will improve for a period of time. On the same topic, recently California House looks like passed it or submitted a proposal of repealing, bringing the ACA 5 and repealing the 209. And so what are your views on that? It will become more competitive in some areas, some groups, and it may be helpful for some groups, but I don't know. I want to hear from you, your views on that, please.
I think when it comes to the African American community, there is a classic case for generations, whether it's whether it was on purpose or just implicit bias amongst people that just don't get it, or heck, even people that I like to think I get it, but we all can have implicit bias, just in our makeup, and over probably 5-6 generations, we have, and more than that, maybe 8 generations, we have systematically taken the African American people and oppressed them for whatever reason, however it was done, but nevertheless put them in certain areas, made sure that no affordable housing could be put in affluent areas, really didn't give a fair opportunity for education. Now look, there's been a lot of African American people that are doing very, very well, that are very, very affluent, but it's a low percentage compared to the rest of the communities. So on those bills, which I either have supported or intend to support, it's really with that in mind that we have wronged generations, and I think we need to do something. It doesn't have to be like even on the reparation. It doesn't have to be cash out payments, but it could be, based on school districts and performance and where they live. We can do a much better job helping, not only from the standpoint of the school systems, funding them better, but also therapy, counseling, help with parents, dual working, childcare, after school programs. There's a number of things that we can do, but what we need to do is we need to create that plan, and I'm very supportive of that.
Gotcha. I agree with you. People have been in a disadvantaged position for a long time, so it will be a little challenging for them to compete because they are not on the same level playing field. So see, we have seen a similar situation. Like this. The place where I have come from, originally come from, in India. So we have, people, with the disadvantaged situation, but the challenge is, they've given, officially they have declared a reservation system. Like, let us say, this particular group of people will get some percentage, 10%, 20%, or 5%. which is good and theoretically, but what's happening is, I mean, they are not able to make use of it. I mean, not everybody. I'm not saying it is not helpful. It is helpful for some people, but at the same time, it is becoming a big strain on the rest of the majority of the people. And another thing is, if you look at it, I mean, this is purely my opinion on this particular topic.
Right.
It's, if you look at it, I mean, it has to be, the foundation has to be strong. Let it be anything. I mean, that is a primary education, especially your elementary school and the middle school and the high school. And from there, I mean, it will be easier if even if you give an opportunity in college. I mean, it will be easy for them to catch on. If without a strong foundation, if you give an entry into the college education, see, even the smart kids, if you go to a Stanford, I mean, if you pay high fees, but I am sure not everybody will be able to survive the rigor of the Stanford or Harvard and those kind of things. It has to be for the people who are really equipped and prepared for those kind of things. So from that point of view, the intentions are good. I mean, the philosophy is right, but is it really going to work? I'm not sure. I mean, this is purely my view on this particular topic, because this is California, because with the circle, I know they already is a very competitive market. I mean, let it be Bay Area or LA. I mean, it's a very competitive educational system right now. It will be more harder for those community, but I mean, I'm not talking about only one community, but yeah, you have other people too who are in disadvantaged situation. But as lawmakers, you have to see a balance, strike a balance between these two. So I will leave it to you at that point on that. So do you want to say anything on that?
Why don't you come out here and do my job, and I'll do your job? You'll probably do a better job. I'm just teasing, but seriously, your point is well taken. It really is. But I guess my motivation in pushing this is what we've done has not been working. And as hard as we try, I think we're on our maybe fourth or fifth decade of declining test scores. We've still, from the education standpoint, we've had generation of poverty within the African American communities, and also other people of color as well. It's not just African American. We generally, I think we're getting better, all the time. But what we're doing is we're doing it piecemeal, one bill at a time. I think your point is, it's going to be very, very difficult, and the devil is in the details. We really got to figure out what the details and the mechanics of the programs will look like. And so there's a lot of work to do.
Gotcha. I appreciate it. I mean, hopefully things will work out better for the government and also for the citizens of California. So we'll leave it there and we'll move on to something else. So during your first term, I mean, do you want to talk about any policies which you have introduced in the Senate?
Well, we've had a number of different fires in my district starting, in 2015 and 16 in Lake County, and then the devastating Sonoma and Napa fires in 2017. And then we've had fires in 18 and 19. So a lot of my bills have been on, emergency response. Everybody has a right to be able to know and understand what an emergency is pending, and how we get the word out to people to evacuate was not even good during all those times. And then, of course, we have way too much fuels over the years. Our environmental, the real, look, we're trying, because of climate change and all these different things, to do the best thing for our environment that we can. But over time, we've made it tough to cut down trees or remove trees or fuel and everything. So we've created now, because of climate change and all the rain followed by periods of drought, and so we got lots of growth, no rains, now it's all dry, and so that's created a big problem. So I had a big bill that would also look at funding healthier forest throughout California. And then also we've had utilities like Pacific Gas and Electric that really haven't done the job. They've invested more money into corporate profits for their shareholders instead of keeping their electrical grid safe for the rest of us. And by and large, they've been responsible for hundreds of deaths and literally thousands and thousands and thousands of homes burning to the ground. So a lot of my legislation has been on that. Although one of the other areas that I was involved with the last couple of years is the area of privacy, particularly when it comes to, dealing with, the internet and dealing with banks and using your personal data. I just really believe that those people that are using your data should be able to tell you where that data is, what it's being used for, and should get your permission to use that data.
Gotcha. That's very nice. You brought in another point. I mean, the climate change. I mean, I know the California has a couple of things of natural disasters like fire. I mean, in the wildfires and also earthquakes, and then some of the sea wise, we have not seen anything so far. But I mean, I'm not aware of it. So what is that? I mean, the policy makers are working on the climate change. I mean, and I know you have a lot of strict rules on the pollution and all control. So right. I would like to hear more from you on that.
Yeah, we've started a long time ago. I can't remember what the year was, maybe 2012 or 13. The state legislature, before I got there, wanted to make sure that we had, by 2020, that we would be 20% of the total carbon, that was emitted in 1990. And then, we're going to 30% by 2030, and so we're using more and more electric. We're making more and more electricity from solar, from renewables. So I think I got that metric. It would be 20% of what it was in 1990. This would be 30% and 40%. Just to be clear on that. But just use of renewable energy, and frankly, creating more wetlands, so that really will absorb, more CO2. Really being, circumspect when we do have cutting of forests to make sure that we don't clear cut, so that we don't lose that carbon sink that comes with our forests. So we've been doing a lot of work on that for a long time. But now as we get to it's not the end, because we still have a lot of work to do, but it's kind of like we've gotten all the easy stuff done. Now the stuff beyond where we are right now is probably more expensive. It's not probably. It is more expensive. It's more difficult to do. It's more difficult to do, particularly without harming your economy. And that of course, is the reason why it's tough to get anything done.
Gotcha. You brought, there's one more thing. I mean, you mentioned, increasing more wetlands. So, but when you say more wetlands, which is good. Planting more trees and this thing. But at the same time, California has another chronic issue of drought. Water shortage. So how is it possible? Being in a drought area which is going through the drought for many years. Luckily, I think last few, 7 or some quarters, it's been no drought, and so they say, looks like they said it's out of drought right now. But still, water is a big issue in California. So being having that problem, so how can you create more wetlands?
Well, first of all, water is used for a number of different things in the state of California, for homes, for industry, for farms. For our farms, we're the breadbasket of the world in many cases. So a lot of water is used there. And then finally, for our environment, we save a lot of water, or use a lot of water, making sure that the species of fish and other species do not die out because they're not paid attention to. That drives a lot of farmers crazy, believe me. But I think it's a balance. And I think the state has done a good job. And, we've been in constant work on new water sources in the state of California, new potential dams, sites, reservoir. Those are such divisive issues that nothing ever gets done quickly. Governor Brown, our most previous governor, had a plan to do 2 tunnels from Northern California to Southern California for water. That didn't make it. now Governor Newsom has a plan for one. So we're always moving in that direction, but it's a challenge, believe me.
Hopefully, I mean, they'll overcome these challenges and then improve the situation of the water in California. Let's hope for that. I'd like to move on to another topic, which is also a hot one. I mean, in the U.S., whole of U.S. and for politics too, healthcare and healthcare costs in the U.S. and especially California. So healthcare is, and right now, I mean, one side, the healthcare costs are going up, and the other side, the hospitals are struggling to pay the bills too. So we don't understand where the money is going. So I mean, the patient is not happy, the hospitals are not happy, and we don't know who is happy here with the money which people are spending from their pocket. And another challenge is, I mean, if you don't have a job, you will not have a health insurance. You will not be able to buy from yourself, and you don't have income, so it will be hard for them to buy the health insurance on their own. So what are your views? I know it's not your portfolio to handle this, but I mean, it's just as a senator of a state and as a politician and the leader of the people and the community. So we'd like to hear your views on this.
President Obama, they call it Obamacare, and it's been vilified. It is outstanding. It has gotten 20 more million Americans, covered by health insurance. Somebody's happy with all the money we're spending on healthcare in the state of California. Somebody somewhere has to be happy, and what we have to do is really identify that. I think there's a lot of great models. We're the only industrialized country in the world that doesn't have healthcare for all, or one of the few that doesn't have healthcare for all. It's something that's probably going to be a little bit more difficult here than in some places, just because of our sheer size and the maturity of the healthcare market. But I think there's some good examples of where we can go. Germany seems to be a classic case where they have the healthcare for all, but also private health insurance to cover certain markets. But it's I would hate to see the repeal across the board of Obamacare. I just think that we call it covered California in the state of California. I think that would be devastating to so many families, and it's just not necessary. What we need is the Republican and Democratic Congress to come together and make what we have much better. Maybe it's a Medicare for all type of situation, but they've got to get in and start moving in that direction.
Gotcha. Okay. Hopefully, I mean, things will change and then come to an understanding and get a good healthcare system in the country for everybody.
Right.
So, do you think? I mean, especially California. I'm just extending this particular topic for one more minute. Especially in California, as we've seen the gap between haves and have-nots. So the people, I mean, even though they are making decent salary, the affordability has gone down. I mean, compared to the few decades, or I mean, at least a decade or 2 decades earlier. I mean, if you make a salary of 90K, 100K, you could have a decent life. But today, the same 100K or 150K, it is not the same way you can. The people used to live long back. So those things are driving them for single payment healthcare system or free college education. So, especially you get all these movements from the west to the rest of the country. If you look at it, that's the pattern. So what do you say? I mean, is that the right way? Is the right direction of going towards the free college education and the single payment health system?
Well, we already have the most expensive system in the world, particularly in the state of California. Our tax rates are higher than most states. Maybe we're in the top 5 in terms of our tax base. I don't know how much more you can tap a population. Not only do we have a high end, we have a bigger low end, and what's happened is we've shrunk our middle class, and that is another big issue that we have. So while I think we can work on different ways to, create a more affordable healthcare system, all I know is that in the state of California, if you're poor and you've got good grades, you can get scholarships and grants to the UC system, CSU system. If you're rich, you don't need them. But if you're in the middle, it's tough. We are squeezing our middle class.
Gotcha. Thanks for sharing your views on all these topics. Do you have any message to the audience or the listeners or your constituents?
Well, it's just an honor, to be able to represent 1 million people throughout my district, as I said, the 6 counties and 22 cities. I will tell you that 2 years ago already, it's gone by fast, I was in India and had the opportunity to travel your great country and enjoyed it very, very much, the different cultures, and it was a fabulous trip. We went on a Senate trip and had the opportunity to go to Delhi and other areas and see your government, meet with some of your government officials. Really a good trip.
Okay, good to know that you've been to India and had a good experience. Happy to hear that one. So with this, I will take we'll call it a day. And then thank you very much for coming onto the show. Do you want to say anything about anything more? Any other points you want to share or talk?
I don't think so, Sheeny. I just appreciate the opportunity to be with you and spend some time with you. And thank you very much for inviting me on your program.
Thank you very much and have a nice evening and good luck with everything, whatever you do in California. And thanks for coming. Thank you.
Thank you.